In many parts of the world, $1 disappears almost instantly. A coffee, a parking meter, maybe half a sandwich. But in the Solomon Islands, a scattered nation of tropical islands in the South Pacific, $1 still moves through daily life in surprisingly meaningful ways. Not because life here is easy, but because the rhythm of this country follows a very different logic. The first thing people notice in the Solomon Islands is the sound. Not traffic, not subway brakes, but waves hitting wooden docks, small outboard motors buzzing across the water, and open-air markets waking up before the sun gets too hot. In the capital city of Honiara, life feels slower than most capitals around the world. Colorful market umbrellas sit beside rusted shipping containers. Pickup trucks share roads with barefoot pedestrians. And just beyond the streets, the Pacific Ocean is always there, blue, humid, and impossible to ignore. Right now, $1 equals roughly 8 Solomon Islands dollars. That may not sound like much, but here, it can still buy pieces of everyday life. At the morning market, a few coins can get you a fresh coconut chilled in the shade. A vendor slices the top open with a machete in one clean motion. The smell is sweet, salty, and fresh from the sea air itself. For many locals, this is not a tourist drink. It is simply part of daily life. Nearby, piles of bananas, cassava, sweet potatoes, and betel nuts cover wooden tables. Much of the food sold here comes directly from villages and family gardens. And that changes everything. Because in many Pacific Island communities, cash is only part of the economy. Food still comes from land, fishing, and exchange between families. That is why even a single dollar can stretch surprisingly far in local markets. A small bag of fried cassava chips might cost less than 50 cents. A piece of grilled fish wrapped in paper, smoky from charcoal fires, can sometimes cost around $1 by itself. And unlike fast food chains in major cities, meals here still carry the feeling of homemade cooking, not mass production. But perhaps the most fascinating thing about the Solomon Islands is not the food. It is the water itself. Because in this country, the ocean is not scenery. It is infrastructure. Many communities across the islands are connected not by highways or railways, but by boats. Small wooden motorboats move constantly between villages, markets, and tiny islands scattered across the Pacific. For locals, these boats are school buses, delivery trucks, taxis, and lifelines all at once. And sometimes, for around $1, you can still take a short local boat ride across parts of Honiara's coastline. That sounds unbelievable in much of the modern world. But here, transportation still depends on geography more than technology. The Solomon Islands are made up of nearly 1,000 islands spread across a massive area of ocean. And daily life has adapted around that reality for generations. In many ways, the country still feels deeply connected to the sea. Not symbolically, practically. That connection also shapes the local economy. Across Honiara, tiny roadside stalls sell phone credit, cigarettes by the stick, homemade snacks, and secondhand clothing imported from overseas. Most are family-run. Many operate entirely in cash. And almost every seller knows their regular customers personally. The informal economy here is enormous. Not because it is trendy or nostalgic, but because it keeps communities alive. In wealthier countries, convenience often comes from apps and delivery systems. In the Solomon Islands, convenience still comes from relationships, from neighbors, from relatives, from people remembering your name at the market. Of course, this does not mean life in the Solomon Islands is cheap or easy. Imported goods are expensive because nearly everything arrives by ship. Fuel prices fluctuate heavily, and wages remain low compared to the rising cost of modern life. For many families, especially outside the capital, access to healthcare, education, and stable infrastructure is still a challenge. And like many island nations, the Solomon Islands also face growing pressure from climate change and rising sea levels. So while $1 can still buy surprising things here, it does not tell the full story of life in the country. But it does reveal something important. Because in the end, the most memorable part of the Solomon Islands may not be what $1 buys. It may be the image of small wooden boats crossing bright blue water at sunset, carrying food, families, and entire routines of everyday life between islands. A reminder that modern life does not look the same everywhere. And maybe value does not either. If you had exactly $1 in the Solomon Islands, would you spend it on fresh market food, a short boat ride, or an ice-cold coconut by the sea? And which country should we explore next?